You know what? Actually, I really think what we should do, Charlotte, is we're live. Hi, guys.
Yeah.
But I really think what we should do is Charlotte still hasn't finished. She's about 100 pages from the end, guys. So I reckon what we do is we ask Charlotte what she thinks is going to happen.
And then we can get a live reaction.
Yes.
It's something ages to get there. I think I accidentally spoiled something minor for myself because I looked at one of the pictures and I read the title of it, which is the Polaroids, and now they've taken the Polaroids. But I was like, oh, that could go either way from where I was up to. But my guess is like the end is that they both have their souls taken by the darkness, or like Henry's is taken first. I'm pretty sure he is like chronically ill. There was something about his heart right at the very beginning that he was born with like a heart condition or something. I don't know. Well, it's like after
I remember that. I actually, it's.
But also the watch is ticking down with how much time he has left. And when he was first given it, it was just past 12. And when Addie first saw it, it was almost to 6. So he's only got about half of the time left. So he's only got like maybe another year or 2 to live anyway. And then Addie's not going to stick around much after he goes, I reckon. But I don't know exactly how it's going to happen.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah. It's like I'm just gonna move so there's better lighting because here we go. Right. I have like quite a few theories of different stuff that's been relevant or would be relevant. Like I picked Henry having a deal with the darkness pretty much straight away, and then they just kept layering more and more clues. There we go.
Hi, Emily. I'm not sure you're going to be very excited after you hear me and Emmy.
Oh, yeah. I've had a week to stew on this.
Yeah, so have I, because I actually finished on Friday night. I had a pretty sleepless night Friday night. My little fella was sick. So I spent most of the night just reading and checking his monitor. So I don't think I went to sleep until like 2 a.m. So I just finished it all literally on Friday. I read about 350 pages on Friday last week. Uh-oh, hold on.
See, I don't know whether I should skim just now to work out like how it ends so that we can talk about it properly and then read through it properly later.
Sorry, my husband is looking at images of them unpacking the Colosseum, which is Lego's largest to-date set ever, 8,000 pieces.
Oh, my God.
Beautiful.
I would get that. That's going to be so expensive.
$760 or something Australian. Oh, yeah.
Actually, that's not too bad. I would have thought it'd be more than that.
It's bigger than the
It's bigger than the Harry Carrier. So we've got the big Harry Carrier from Marvel. It's even bigger than that. Oh my God. Okay, sorry, distraction. Lego. I can't help myself. Sorry.
I would have thought that'd be more expensive though, because even the like smaller Star Wars sets that you get at Christmas time are like in the 700s.
There's a bit of a price difference. When you're looking at Star Wars and Disney, you're looking at licensed products. When you're looking at something like the Colosseum, it's not licensed. So you get more bang for your buck when it comes to parts. But I also do foresee a lot of build this item, now build it 60 times. Now build this bit and build it 60 times. So, it's about 750, I think it's going to be, Australian. Hopefully the stores get it so we can chuck it on lay-by because I can't afford it otherwise.
Who could, though?
You would just walk out of the shop with it and they'd forget, so.
Sorry, you're getting live reaction here, guys. We've got some pictures so far. We've seen an unboxing. Oh, they've used a mosaic piece.
They're in dark green.
Olive green.
Olive green.
Okay, sorry. I really should start like a podcast with like Lego stuff in it because let's face it. Yes, Amelia, I think you were here last time Amy was visiting on this channel.
I'm pretty sure Amy's been on my streams as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I just look different today.
Or it's just been so long because let's face it, you weird, Western Australia's people with your weird time, 3 hours later.
I'm sorry, you guys with your weird times.
Let's not discuss that, please. Okay, well, what we might do is whilst Charlotte's skimming, we might.
Yeah, I don't know. Should I just skim through like the main events and then we can talk about it, and then I'll go back and read it properly?
To be honest, just skip to the last section because.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just skip to the last section because the lead up to it you've probably pretty much already guessed.
Yeah, but like there's a heap of details that I think I've been like picking on. Like the watch has come up multiple times, and I should go through and check what other notes I've made. Yeah, I have so many notes.
Well, this is a book that she was actually looking forward to.
Yeah, I know.
Like, aren't you a fan of the Schwab?
This is the first one I've read, but
okay.
I'm just so used to all of my reading time being at work through audiobooks, and because this is a physical book, I was just like forgetting that I needed to put aside time to read, and then I should have just downloaded the audiobook and listened to it at work, but I didn't, and here we are. I almost downloaded it today and listened to it because I think I had like maybe 8 hours worth of audiobook. It would have been from what I'd mentally worked out anyway.
You could have listened to it at 1.5, which would have significantly. See, if I put this on audiobook and listened to it at 1.5, I probably would have enjoyed it better because it would have gone a hell of a lot quicker. Because this damn thing is bigger than my head. Okay. Now, all good reviews have to start with the physical. It is bigger than your head.
It is.
Okay?
It's a chunk. And there's no page breaks in the titles.
Yeah.
So it's if there were page breaks, this would have been like a 900-page book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the chapters go right through.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the chapters are also really short, there's no consistency to how long or short they are. They're as long as she wants each one to be, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so this is The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit in one, right? Okay, not as wide, but I mean,
I do have a copy of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit in one book, though, that is smaller than this.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like this tall and maybe slightly thicker, but still.
1.5. So it's about the Return of the King and half of the Two Towers. So the entire action of Lord of the Rings, which is effectively half of the Two Towers and all of Return of the King. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna start skimming. Robbie is doing a production based on Faust. How appropriate.
So Amy just nicked off to hydrate. This is the stream of what Charlotte skim read the last 140 pages.
I mean, you should probably mute us so that like we can talk.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I could do that. Do you guys want to start talking like spoiler stuff while I skim?
Well,
and I'll mute
you can't start talking about it without talking spoilers, I don't think.
Okay, I'm just going to mute you guys and you guys can go.
I mean, we can do like a spoiler-free thing, but like if we're talking over you, concentrate. Okay. Man, I don't even know.
Where do the critical, cold, dead at heart bitches start?
Okay, to keep it spoiler free at the start.
Yes,
I loved the start of this.
Oh, I love the writing.
Loved it. The writing is gorgeous. That's the only I did a Goodreads review. How much did I think I gave it 3 stars. Okay. But 2 of those stars are for the writing quality.
Yeah, I would say
1 is for the story.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, and I think we chatted about this as spoiler-free as possible in our chat, because obviously Charlotte hasn't finished yet. When you read this as a literary book, it makes sense. The structure makes sense. The very little plot makes sense, because at the end of the day, literature is usually about reading into humanity or taking a concept and exploring that one concept through the whole thing. And a lot of the time, characterization, storyline does suffer for that, because they're exploring an idea as opposed to telling a story. And I still think there's a story in here, but I don't think the story is worth, where's my last page?
Yeah.
545 pages. I think it could have been maybe 2/3 of that, and it would have been brilliant. I just don't think it needed all of it. Like, she could have started with Henry. As much as I love the first section, she could have started with Henry meeting Addie. And you got because everything that happens beforehand, you get in backstory later.
Yeah.
Because she repeats herself over and over again.
Yeah. What got me with the start, so, like, it starts with her waking up in someone's bed, going through the whole, he's going to forget me, he's not going to remember me, blah, 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 blah. And then it's, her leaving and whatever.
That's in modern day. That's in modern day.
And then it jumps to the past and gives you, like, a bit of her childhood and stuff like that and sets that up. I feel like that was not the way to go. Like, as much as I liked it, one thing that bugged me was that every time you read something in the past, the same thing then happened in the future. So it already spoiled itself for me. Yeah. So I feel like it would have been good to have all the past stuff stuffed at the front, and then you read the modern time. Or
you would have chronological.
Intermittent.
So you would have preferred it chronological. I was happy. Yeah. I was happy with the back in time stuff. My problem was it happened back in time, and then it happened in modern day. Then it happened in back in time, and then it happened in modern day. I would have just said pick one. Either do it back in time or do it in modern day. Don't do it.
Or do it sparingly. It was, for me, I got what she was trying to get across. That, like, when you live for so long, things are going to continuously repeat, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I get it. But do it sparingly throughout. Just like you get it, okay, oh, crap, that happened. Like, history repeated itself, and then nothing. Oh, crap, it did it again. Oh, wow, what a repetitive, boring life.
You know what would have sealed it for me is there's this bit right at the start. I'm not going to find it in my tabs, but there's this bit at the start where the old lady that taught her about the old gods tells her, because she's got these 7 freckles across her face. They're a constellation of stars, and that's her one defining feature through the whole book.
Yeah, literally.
Well, it is the only thing people remember. But the thing is, though, is this old lady, and I can't for the life of me remember her name right now. I've had a killer headache.
Estelle, I think.
Estelle, yes, Estelle. She turns around and she says, 7 freckles for the 7 loves of your life. And this is not a spoiler because it happens really, really, really. Stig, Charlotte is finishing the last 100 pages. She hasn't finished the book yet. So what I would have loved to have seen is her 7 loves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there?
No, there wasn't. Not that I could count. She had the writer in France.
Mm-hmm.
She had the musician
at the start.
I'm assuming Henry's
artist. Henry.
The artist, yes, the artist. No. Yes, the artist in Florence.
Oh, both. There's one in modern time and one in Florence.
Yeah. See, we can't even count them. And obviously Luke is one.
Luke. One more.
Yeah, so there probably is 7 in here.
Yeah,
but
I guess you could count Estelle though. So I guess it depends on the definition of.
You can't count the sculptor because through here the sections are split with artwork that's all been inspired by Addie. That's how she's kept her mark on the world. But the first one is a sculpture finds a broken wooden bird on the ground in France. She never met that guy because she's in the story. She gets kicked out of somewhere because they don't believe that she paid to stay there because they don't remember her, and it breaks. It was a token of her father, and it breaks, and she just leaves it. So he's obviously walked past, picked it up, and gone and done his thing. So if the 7 pieces of artwork had tied to the 7 people she loved,
I guess you could say then that it was her dad.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think it didn't with the way Estelle said it. To me, it was actual love, not just family love or whatever.
Yeah, not. But see, that's the thing is like V. Schwab seems like that kind of person that would pull that kind of bullshit.
To me, that would have like given the story a bit of structure. Like even if we had the repetitiveness of the 7 loves and it all starts off lovely and she has to keep reminding them who she is, blah 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 blah, and it gets melancholy towards the end, and in the end she's brokenhearted and has to leave them. But in 7 sort of time frames with 7 different men or women or whatever they were, that to me would have been more structure than what we got in this.
Yeah, it was a jumble of. It was a mess.
There's a lot of ideas, a lot of great ideas. I just think they're not in the most succinct order, I think is the way to put it. You keep going because the writing's beautiful.
Yeah.
But then you get to a point. So this is what I was showing the girls before we went live, guys. So I start off with lots and lots of notes, and then it slowly starts disappearing. Because it just got to the point where I felt like even though I love the writing, it just started to feel really repetitive. And I'm just like, oh, I've already noted something like that, so I sort of stopped. But
I think I got to about – it always helps me to see the physical. Yeah. I got to about like just after halfway, like maybe the last like third. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm done now. This is – but I kept reading because the writing is gorgeous. It really is beautiful writing. It makes me want to read her other stuff. Like, surprisingly, this hasn't turned me off her other stuff.
No.
That's how you know it. The writing is good. Like, I can tell she's talented, but like.
Yeah. And her other stuff is more YA, so it's going to be simpler language and it's going to be a bit more punchy, I think.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested in reading a lot of her other books, and some of
and there'll actually be a plot. Because what got me with this is that there's no plot until you get to the last 40 pages.
Yeah. There is a plot in this, but it's very, very slow burning. It is, if you've read a lot of literature books or things that have been acclaimed as the greatest literature book of this century or that century or whatever, then you'll feel comfortable reading this because it's not.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's not a horrible book. It's just not an action-packed, romantic adventure or anything like that.
I recommended this to my friend who loves classic literature. But yeah, I can stand this because the language is more modern, but I don't like the fact that there's no fucking plot. It just drove me insane. And Addie's such a fucking idiot.
Can we talk about
my God.
Okay, okay.
In 300 years, could she not figure out how to fucking busk? Like, she didn't have to steal shit. She could have busked for money. I'm sure she could have kept it in her pockets. Like,
And hello, there's such a thing called credit records. You can apply for a credit card never walking into a bank. She couldn't write, but that was part of it. Like, she couldn't write. I'm sure she figured out ways around things. I'm sure she could have figured it out.
Could she not text?
But she could have gone into a bank. I don't know. But no, you know my biggest problem with Addie? My biggest problem with Addie, the character, is I spent the entire book going, honey, you got yourself into this shit. Stop whinging.
Yes. Oh my God, the whole book was just sooking. And then every time someone forgot her, she was all upset and sad. It's like, you knew that was going to happen. Why do you do this to yourself, you idiot?
The first couple of times it happens, like when she's first left home, when she first makes the deal, and it happens to, like, her parents forget her and her best friend forgets her. That I understand. But by the time she gets to the next village, she hasn't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
She has figured it out. She just doesn't want to believe it. And I think that's what she's trying to say. She doesn't want to believe it, at least for that first year or so or whatever. But it's just, like, I just kept, every time, okay, she calls the dark god wild thing, whatever he really is, she calls him Luke, Luc. Yeah, okay, let's not go there. I thought it was a very inappropriate name, considering that he was one of the old gods and she sort of rejected the church, yet she decided to call him Luke.
Yeah. Would it be Luke or Luce?
Oh, I just said Luke because
I said Luke, but
English and bad English are better at the second one. So, but I just felt like even in 5 years down the track, oh, woe is me, you did this to me, you did this to me. It's like, you asked for it. Just because you did not consider the consequences does not make it his fault. He's an asshole. It doesn't make it his fault.
But even then, like, what annoyed me with, like, the whole Luke thing is that, yeah, he was a dick most of the time, but then it got to the middle and it was just like, you could, I don't know, it read to me that he legitimately did get attached to her. He had legitimate feelings. And then she spent the whole, like, what was it, 180 years or something, turning him down and turning him away, and he's lying, it's all fake, he's such a dick, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, what? You think he's been alive since the start of the world, I'm assuming. Yeah. You think he hasn't learned what love is? Like, she's just...
Yeah. See, also too, though, is there's also a consequence, because so those of you that haven't read it, when she's taught about the old gods, she's taught that, you know, to commune with them and to ask them for gifts, you have to give them things. So, you know, you give them your favorite necklace and you chuck it in the river and ask for something or whatever. But one of the things that she does is, as a child, she's a drawer. She loves to draw. So she charcoal draws this dark man all the time, her dark lover, which is what she calls him. And it gets to this point, and then when she makes this deal, he takes the form of this dark lover. So she gives him form. So up until this point, he's been a wild spirit. So she gives him, so once, and a lot of the books that I've read like this is that's a consequence of it. Once you've given that kind of humane form, you start to have human feelings. And I think that's what happens with Luke. Okay, it's like a bad marriage. It's like a marriage from hell, because it's abusive. It is definitely abusive to begin with. And the way he treats her in those first 50 years is just, you know, he's trying to get her soul effectively, because that was the bargain. She was going to give him her soul when she was finished with it. So he's pushing her to be finished with it, so he makes her life a living hell. But it works out that he gets attached to her and starts saying, well, I want you to be around with me. I don't want you to go. I want to keep you with me. But she won't believe him. And, you know, rightly so. He was pretty nasty the first 100 years he was pretty nasty.
I think, something like that.
To be honest, because it's a jumble, because it jumps back and forth, I lost track of time.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep track.
Yeah. So, but at some point he does start trying to extend an olive branch, and she just keeps pushing him away, hurting him, really, being a real right bitch, because it's his fault she's stuck in this situation. No, it's not, honey, it's your fault. Which I think, in a way, I kind of hope Schwab was trying to do. Like, she got herself into it, and until she accepted that she got herself into it, she couldn't do anything about it. Once she accepted what she got herself into it, in the last 50 pages of the book, she was able to sort something out. Yeah, she was able to figure something out. But that I think that's why some people have been saying that they cried the whole way through the book. I'm sitting there going, I'm sorry, I just don't care about the protagonist.
Yeah. I felt like, as much as I liked the writing and it was beautiful and it was great, I feel like the style of it took away any urgency when the situation called for it. Like when they're like that scene where she's in the alleyway during the French Revolution, and there's a bunch of guys that are coming toward her, and they're being suggestive and creepy and gross. And I was reading it and I was just like, no, because the writing was so pretty. There was no it just didn't.
Well, also too, she wasn't going to die. You know she was going to die because you're reading about her 200 years in the future.
Yeah. But I think it was that, I don't think it was the death that it was something else she was trying to imply there. But it was like, there was still just no urgency in the scene. Yeah. It was like your brain goes, oh no, this could happen. But that was about it. It wasn't like, oh shit. It was, I
was thinking more on the lines of they were probably going to accuse her of being some noblewoman and cut off her head, or something like that. But,
I think it was something a little more sinister than that. But it was just not. Look, as much as I can appreciate,
Look, I'll be honest. The only reason I finished it was because we're doing it for book club. But in saying that, I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I didn't either. I definitely didn't hate it.
It wasn't keeping my attention. I think it
kept my attention. Like, the writing would suck me in, but it wasn't, I think, the kind that I think because I read a lot of YA, and a lot of YA relies on shock value. Yeah. And this didn't have any shock value. So this was like reading a really long poem.
Yeah. See, but I don't read YA, and to me, the books I read tend to be not plain spoken, but the writing's meant to disappear into the story. So you're meant to be so sucked into the characters and the plot and the action, you don't really think about reading. When I found a lot of the times I was looking at the words, and that's what most of these tabs are, is me going, oh, that's a pretty sentence. That's a pretty sentence. It's not, oh, that's an amazing plot piece, or that was a
it was
great
more reading for the writing, not the story.
Exactly. And to me, that is a literature book. So I don't hate it. It's not normally my style. I'm normally a very big sci-fi fantasy person who likes blood and guts and gore and veins in your teeth and blood in your teeth, that sort of stuff. So it was very different. I don't hate the fact that I read it. I just thought there could have been so much more to it.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's really hard. Like, as much as I liked it and the writing was beautiful and everything, it's kind of one of those ones that you read it, you get to the end, and then you just kind of have that meh.
Yeah.
Like, once it's finished and you're done, like, when you're reading it, you're like, wow, this is so beautiful. Oh, the writing's so beautiful. But then you close it because you finished it and you're just like, all right.
And I think a good way to explain it is, obviously I have been brain dead for most of the last couple of months. So for me to read, I have to first psych myself into it. I have to give myself a block of time where I know I can concentrate. I'm getting better now. Thank God for the second trimesters. But I found myself having to sit down like on a Saturday night and say, okay, I'm not going to sit on the computer and do this and do that. I'm going to go and read because I had to give myself a solid block of time to concentrate on it.
Yeah.
Not because it's hard to read. It's just because it just wasn't engaging me like, what was it? This one. Fifth season, I was engaged. Yeah, I know you're a fan. But it's the difference. It's the difference was with the fifth season, I was engaged. And so much so that I went and bought the physical books so that I can actually do what I was going to do, what I was doing with Addie, and actually go through it and, make notes and stuff as I go. So now I'm not going to be able to put it back in, am I? But, okay, look, winner of the Hugo Award winner, which can be considered a type of literary book. I just think there was a lot of unnecessary pages. I understand what she was going for with the words, but I just don't think we needed so many of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So much repetition, so much unneeded, like jumping from time periods. I swear there was like so many chapters where literally nothing happened. It had nothing to do with anything. It was just there. And it just, like, I think I liked this more than you because I was engaged. I didn't have to like force myself to read it or anything. I wanted to read it.
But that also taking into account the fact that I don't have any brain power at all. So it doesn't matter what I read. I might come back next month on Charlotte's channel and go, I couldn't get engaged with this. And I know I love this book. So it could just be me at the moment. Or it could be a grumpy, critical old bitch,
But I also found that like, because I was reading this while I was working out. So I was reading this while I'm on the treadmill, which maybe that helped me stay more engaged because I was distracting myself from dying. But like, I don't know. I just I feel like I enjoyed it and I wanted to read it. And if there was more, if there was more of the stuff before Henry, I would have kept reading. I just would have kept reading. If it just never ended, I would have just kept reading. But the second that Henry was introduced, I found that Addie just got so much more fucking whiny and annoying and like childish. And like, this bitch has been alive for 300 years and she speaks like a fucking teenager the whole time. She's not even a teenager when she makes the deal. She's an adult. She's like 29 or something, isn't she?
She's 23. She's 23. She's an old maid. For her era, she's an old maid. So effectively she makes the deal. Those of you that haven't read this, she makes the deal with Luke because she's avoiding a marriage. Okay, so she's 23 years old. She's never wanted to be married. She's never shown interest in guys or any of that sort of stuff or anyone. She's shown interest in guys because she's made herself her own fantasy lover, but, she and the parents arranged her marriage with quite a respectable guy whose wife died, so he's a widow, and he's got some young kids. So they're marrying her off effectively so that she would be looked after because it was the time period. Look, I understand her not wanting to get married, but my problem with that is her mentality is very modern.
Yeah.
Very, very modern. For 300 years ago, I could understand her not wanting to get married or having fear of dying child, something like that. But reasons she doesn't want to get married don't sit right with me for someone 300 years ago. There would have been perfectly acceptable reasons to use, but she has the same mentality through the whole book, and she never quite grows up. She's always sort of acting like a petulant 15-year-old.
Yep.
15-year-old. And it just gets it just feels very repetitive because she makes the same mistakes over and over and over again because she just doesn't learn. But yeah. But
I think the reason that she had those ideals is because of Estelle, because she saw her, you know, live by herself, and she was, you know, very inspired by that and everything. And she was, you know, the outcast in the town, and Addie was kind of like, that's what I want. I want to, you know, have my freedom or whatever.
But she doesn't use them as her reason. Her reason's more very basis about, I don't want to be the wife of an old guy and have to look after 2 kids that aren't mine and things like that. It's like, no. You want your freedom. You don't want, you know, I think it gets jumbled a little bit. She tries to put so many reasons in for why Addie doesn't get married or shouldn't get married or doesn't want to get married, that it gets a bit jumbled in for me. I don't know. Maybe I just read it wrong. But
I think it definitely came back. It came down to more, she doesn't want to be tied down, I think, definitely. She wants to be free. She wants to be able to, you know, kind of not do what she wants, but just not, like, I think it's the same thing in that she wants to, you know, she wants to find her love. She wants to choose who she's going to be married to. She wants to this. Which I get, and yeah, people obviously would have thought that at the time. But in the time, it was, no, you shut up and do what you fucking told. Not.
But she had plenty of opportunity. And I mean, it is mentioned quite a few times that there was a lot of gentlemen callers. She had plenty of opportunity to find someone that she liked, but she just decided she didn't want any of them.
Yeah.
Okay, look, I understand.
But I mean, that's from like the small town. She never met anyone outside of the town. So I think in a way this is, oh my God, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling.
In a way. Yeah. Yeah.
She wanted more than that provincial life, my friend.
Yeah.
That's what she wanted.
Also true, though, is my question to that, though, too, is, okay, I understand she wanting more, wanting to do this, want to do that. But, okay, Belle was educated.
Yeah.
Addie wasn't.
Well,
So
she was taught how to read.
Yeah, later.
This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling.
By her dad. That makes it make a whole lot more sense to me.
That makes me realize that that's the reason why I fucking like it.
Okay,
and why I don't like the end.
Yeah, that would explain why you don't like the end. Amy Lee's asking, if we were to rewrite the book, how would we write it? So you go first.
I would probably keep some of it the same, but I think my thing is I would fucking cut the ending. The ending's shit. I think. Okay. I would move I would change the structure of it. So I would have everything that's set in the past at the start so that there's less repetition of, oh, this just happened in that chapter, now it's happening in the future, blah, blah, blah. I would have all the past sections together at the start.
Yep.
And then have all the current or the modern stuff at the back.
Yep, me too.
I would change the ending. I don't know if we want to talk about the ending just yet, but I would change the ending because that was a piece of shit. But I have 2 alternative endings that I thought would have been better. But I don't know if we want to talk about the ending yet. But honestly, that's the only change I would make. I feel like everything else was pretty solid. I thought it was good. Yeah. It passes. For me, it was just the end that really fucked the whole thing over for me.
I would do the same thing. I would make it more chronological. I would focus on a little bit about the 7 love thing because when I read that, I thought, you could use that as a way for her because that's 7 lives repeating effectively. So that gives you the repetition without and the boringness of it all, but giving you structure, knowing that she's going from one to the next to the next to the next. And I probably would have cut about a third of it because I think it's too long.
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah, and the ending, look, to be honest, I didn't hate the ending the way you did, because I also picked it pretty early. The one element I didn't really careful was the same one that you don't like. We might as well just talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She must be close now.
She's got to be getting close to the end. I'm waiting for her to go.
Yeah. I'm watching her. Her face is getting more and more like,
Yeah. So at the end of it all, Addie goes through this 314 or whatever it is years, doesn't learn much along the way until the last, say, 6 months is when she grows up, I think.
Yeah,
I think
I'd say that.
the last 6 months is when she grows up, which is better late than never, I guess. But at the end of it all, the boy she meets, Henry, has also made a deal with Luke. And that's why he remembers her. But his deal, because he was very, very drunk when he did it, was effectively to live for a year. So, and that to me gives you, like, even if all you did was right from when Henry meets her and Henry's journey with her, and have sprinklings of her history through that. I mean, it would be a novella, but it would be brilliant.
You know what, actually? Sorry, while it's fresh in my mind, something that surprised me that no one's talked about was that there was no warning for Henry and that whole situation, if you know what I'm talking about. Because everyone's so on to, like, the trigger warnings and the this and the graphic content, and that I had no idea that was coming up. And then I started reading it and I was like, oh, okay. Like, it doesn't bother me when I know it's coming, but just because of how kind of...
The difference between a traditionally published novel and someone doing self-published, because it's usually the people doing self-published that will do trigger warnings.
Yeah.
You're right. And everyone goes, oh, no, I don't want to spoil the ending. I won't tell you. And it's like, well, you got to, if you go, you got to spoil the ending to do the trigger warning.
But you don't really, because you kind of get a sense of it when you first meet Henry.
Yeah.
But it was how it was, I wouldn't say it was particularly graphic, but just, you could say it was graphic in a way, how it was talked about at the end.
Yeah.
I was just kind of not prepared for that. I didn't think it was going to go that way. And it doesn't so much bother me at the moment, but, like, if I'd read that, like, 8 months ago, that would not have been, that would have been bad.
The added problem is they do misdirect you to begin with too, because the first time they talk about his meeting with Luke, it's all down on the ground in the rain at his entrance to his unit block. And then when you jump back to Henry actually sort of saying exactly what went on, that's what you get. It's like boom in your face and you're like, what? Well, that came out of nowhere.
Like, you kind of get it with, like, the umbrellas and, like, other things, and, like, when he kind of starts talking about himself more, you get the sense that it's there and he's gone through it and blah blah blah. But it's just how much of a kind of gut punch that was out of nowhere that really just kind of surprised me.
I think we're at the end. Hang on.
Oh, Charlotte, you're still muted.
Charlotte, you're muted.
I thought I pressed it. Maybe it didn't go. I skimmed basically. I managed to get one marker in despite the fact that I was skimming. I was like, why is the marker after the bookmark? And I was like, oh, yeah. I think that was at the watch bit. No, it wasn't. It was, it was when they realized that, I think he said something like, time will do that soon enough. And I was like, called it. But yeah, I need to reread the last 100 pages or so, but I feel like I'm going to cry even a lot more then. So.
Okay, so it's just your cold-hearted bitches.
We're just dead inside, Renee.
It's just you two, yeah. I cried just skimming, so I'm on 2%. I better grab a charger.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I can see where she's getting upset though. It's exactly what we were talking about. I get it. I had the prickle, but that was it.
I cared more for Henry than I did Addie.
Yes, definitely.
When we got to that point, I actually was like, oh, Henry, no. And then I went, oh, okay, cool. Okay. So I actually cared for Henry more than I cared for Addie.
Oh yeah, big time.
I am pregnant crying over people finding their houses in House Hunters International, and I didn't cry over this book. I mean,
yeah, I kind of had the prickle and the nose, but that was the most of it, and then it was gone by the next page.
It could have just been because it was 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I was on the treadmill, so maybe that kind of.
So we actually were talking about the fact that Charlotte, that Emily brought it up, is there's actually, with everyone being concerned about trigger warnings and that, there's no actual trigger warning when people are talking about this book.
Even just outside of the Schwab herself, even just reviews and stuff, there's no one saying trigger warnings or anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that it's written that everyone's just sort of
Yeah, I don't know. I just find it odd because for so many other books, everyone's so quick to this. But with this one, everyone's like, it's just so beautiful. I'm like, okay, but
I think it's the way that it's written is because you get the perspective of Addie not being necessarily, particularly when you're looking at the relationship with Luke, she's never particularly, from the bits, not including the bits that I just skimmed, she's sort of self-aware of the situation that she's in and using her own power to sort of manipulate it. So it's not like it's condoning an abusive relationship. It's very much showing the ways that she fights to get out of it. And even the last page where she says her next challenge is to break him.
Yeah.
And then she'll finally be free. I find it interesting that the last 6 pages are blank pages in the book.
Yeah. That annoyed me so much. Just from a environmental graphic design point of view, I was just like, why the fuck are there so many? And if she had just, as much as I hate page breaks, if she'd done page breaks, there wouldn't have been those pages.
Yeah. But also too though, there's this page has been intentionally left blank. This page is intentionally left blank. So how do you know? Maybe we're missing a chapter.
I doubt it. I think it's deliberately intentional because of the fact that when she writes stuff down, it disappears.
Oh no!
What a waste of paper.
No, I think it's counting because you have to do them in when you're publishing, doing print books. 1, 2.
Yeah, it'll be the binding.
4, 5. It's a binding thing because it's an uneven number. They had to make the numbers even. So I think it's in lots of 8. I think it's in lots of 8.
Sounds about right. I can't remember. I did pre-press and printing. I should fucking know this shit, but
it's a very long time since I've done printing, anything to printing. But look, I couldn't. I don't know. You've obviously had a very different experience with this book than I have. I personally just thought Addie was, for a lot of it, a whingy person who refused to acknowledge that it was her fault entirely that she was put in this situation.
I think I can see how that would come across, but it didn't come across that way to me because she acknowledges that she made a mistake in making the deal, But at the same time, she's sort of like, well, I kind of just have to work with what I've got now.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of like a self-aware guilt almost, more than...
Because there's a point, doesn't she say, I think I skimmed it, where where Henry asks if she was offered it again, would she do it again? And she says yes.
The last, say, 80, 50 pages, when she grows up, as I was saying earlier, it like takes her the last 6 months of her life to grow up after 300 years. But once she takes responsibility for it, she actually becomes able to do things.
It's interesting as well, because if you think about it, she's been trapped in her 20s for 300 years, because I guess it's kind of hard to grow a certain amount when every experience she has is constantly repeating the same thing. Like if you think about it, a lot of the way that you learn and grow stuff is by having different experiences. And if you're constantly having the same experience repeated, you're trapped in an endless cycle, I guess.
Plenty of different experiences.
Yeah, see, I would agree with that for interpersonal relationships. But when it's like she's been through multiple world wars, she's been through the French Revolution, she's been through the, Renaissance art movement, she's been through all this other stuff, these massive world-changing events, for her to still be like a fucking 15-year-old by the end of it, it's a little bit frustrating. Like, you survived 2 world wars, all this other stuff, and she's just like, yep, so I'm still going to cry over the fact that my boyfriend's not going to remember me again. It's like, you 300 years you've been going through this. Yeah. I just don't understand why.
But it takes her meeting Henry to change. Let's face it. It takes her and takes her realizing that in the same deal, in a similar deal, to change. And to me, that's the story. So that's the plot. That's the thing. That's the Addie's finally growing up and taking responsibility for what she did. Also, to realizing a little bit, okay, Luke's an asshole. Let's not. He's a bit of a dick. He's an asshole. But over the 300 years, he has changed. But she refuses to acknowledge that. Even right at the end, where she's still fighting him and still needs to break him, she hasn't acknowledged that he has actually changed.
I think it's particularly for the case of Henry forgetting her. I feel like that's kind of understandable to me anyway, because for everyone else they forgot her straight away, and it took up until Henry to actually be able to experience someone remembering, and he's the only person in 300 years that's remembered, and then she realizes he's also going to forget, and it's like the only chance that she's had is taken. But then he remembers.
I didn't get his forgetfulness as in he's going to forget she exists. I got it as in just standard life forgetfulness. It's like as you grow older, you forget how someone used to hold their head when they talk to you, and you forget about So that's, and I took that as a nice forgetfulness, because I took that as in that's the proper way to forget someone, not just this instant. Oh, who are you? JJ, you don't need to show your starfish to everyone.
So I had the revelation that this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I feel so stupid for not picking it up before.
I agree. I actually agree.
Yeah, but it's totally the reason why I don't like the ending, is because it just like kind of fucked with that whole flow of that.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? Because when you think about it, the Beast, Luke, has changed. He has grown up. He's changed. He's matured, but she didn't.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if this is like, if she continues this, which I don't think
she's not going to.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, if she continues with this, then it's going to be like they're going to do a whole like, oh, the Beauty or the Beast fell in love with Beauty, but then Beauty didn't love him back and turned into the Beast. Like, that's where I could have seen this going if she was going to do a sequel. And to me, that's just annoying. Like, I feel like her character completely flipped in that last chapter. Like, she just went from being normal Addie, nice Addie, to being, like, vengeful bitch. Which is just totally not her character. And it made no sense to me.
And my thing about that with the ending, okay, we might as well, we'll spoil the ending now, but Addie makes a deal, rehashes her deal with Luke. And
I skimmed that.
She goes willingly with Luke and he
cancels the deal with Henry.
Effectively cancels the deal with Henry. Now, in saying that, she's been telling Henry all about her life and he's been writing them down in his notebooks. And so he decides to publish it as a book. So one of the last scenes you've seen the last scene of Addie is her in a bookstore looking at the invisible life of Addie LaRue, which is
that did kind of annoy me.
I hated that so much. That was that part in my stream where I was just like, what the fuck?
It's a literature device.
Back to the start to check the dedication to make sure it wasn't what was written in the book about the other book. I was like, you better not have. And it's not. The actual dedication is to Patricia for never once forgetting. Whereas in the fictional version, it's like, I remember you or something like that.
Yeah, I remember you, Addie, or something.
Look, I like how we're both eating. And this is probably the only stream where Charlotte's not.
She hasn't had a chance.
I've been chewing on stuff for the last 2 minutes. You didn't notice that?
No.
But look, look, okay. As a literature device, that does work. As a story,
it was cheap. It was shit. It's a cheap shot.
Okay, look. The whole story is about art and remembrance and that. What would have made my day is instead of the book, it was a curated art installation.
Well, no, they did have that. No, because
they did have that.
They did have it, but it was because of the book. And I would have liked it to be like when what's his friend, the girl?
Beatrice Cadwell. So it says at the end of this last one,
yeah,
all works currently on display at the Modern Museum of Art exhibit In Search of the Real Addie LaRue, curated by Beatrice Cadwell, PhD, Columbia. But so maybe he just wrote the book so that she was allowed to do that PhD topic.
But that's what I mean. Like maybe at the end, rather than the book being published, blah 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 blah. It was an art installation. To me, that would have made more sense because the whole book was about her leaving herself in artwork.
Yeah, that would have been...
It wasn't about her leaving herself in stories or literature. It was about leaving herself in pieces of art.
In art and songs and music. So I guess her fascination, like her enjoyment of books was probably interesting. So I think the fact, wasn't it a novel or something that he wrote?
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense in coming full circle in that. I just wish they hadn't called it The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yeah, that made me cringe so bad.
If we just called it Addie.
I remember you.
Just call it Addie or LaRue.
Yeah, or Remembering Addie or something like that.
No, totally, yeah, but the fact that they used the name of the title, that just...
Yeah, that instant cringe.
Yeah.
But I hated that.
I wonder if that was a choice by Victoria or a choice by Tor, like the publishers.
Yeah.
Because she would have written it in the book, but then she might have not intended to call the book that title, and the publishers may have picked that as the title for the book. It's like, hey, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That is a little annoying, actually.
And that's possible because, yes, okay, she may have written it in the novel, but her title for the book might have been something along the lines of Remembering Addie. Yeah, or Addie.
Well, she just refers to it as Addie. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. But like, it did kind of, I think if they'd changed the title to something like "I Remember You" instead of making that the dedication, that would have made it less cringe.
Yeah.
It did make sense to me, coming full circle of like her learning to read, her being obsessed with stories and novels as like the way that we communicate and stuff like that, to then herself becoming one as like her final piece of art. I really liked the art exhibit stuff all the way through.
I love the art.
That had been, they should have put that on those last few blank pages, was just like a compilation of all the different pieces of art that are mentioned.
Making it section breaks, actually having it there. Because to me, actually, that actually spoiled a few things for me, because I read it and I read into the little captions and you're like, oh, okay. Oh,
funny thing is, when I first got the book and I like flicked through, I stopped and read the caption of the piece of music.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize how far in that was. So I'd kind of forgotten by the time I was reading through that wasn't at the start of the book. So I'd like seen that and be like, oh, they're all referring to stuff that's going to happen, because I read that first and then I started reading the book and like was like, oh, it's that song that she's writing with the guy.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize until it got to the end, after it had played in the pub or something, I was like, oh, that was actually supposed to be placed here, and I read it a lot earlier. Whoops.
But look, you know,
yeah, I think there was a lot of like in-book spoiling.
Yes.
Like I talked about it with Renee before, where like you'd read something happen in the past and then it would happen again in the future in the next chapter. And I understand the purpose of that, but I just was then like, why did I have to read this again? I literally just read it. Like if it had been spread out, it would have been fine.
Yeah. I would actually find it very interesting to reread this, but reread it in chronological order.
Yeah, I honestly think it would work way better.
Because I think that repetition of what happens would then be split. So you have something that happens in France and then 200 pages later you have it happen in the modern world. And then, you know, something else. And then I think that gives you the repetition without it being so close to itself that it actually feels like a spoiler.
I just feel like it would have been more impactful to read it that way as well, because then it's not fresh in your mind. But then when you read it in the future parts, after you've read all the past stuff, and then you can be like, didn't I already... Oh, like it's like everything kind of, I feel like it would have been so much better.
It would feel more like a revelation than you being beaten over the head with some information.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, I get it. Every time someone goes to sleep, they wake up, they don't remember her. Okay, I've got it. It's done. We don't need to read it every fucking chapter. Yeah. For me, repetition is the worst thing. I just get really frustrated with repetition, even in like music, in movies, in other things. Like I can't stand it. If there's a writer that uses, you know, a certain word too much, it bugs me. I hate repetition. So having that same theme repeated through every fucking chapter. Someone goes to sleep, someone leaves a room, they forget her. Oh no, now there's shit gonna go down. It's like, I got it the first time. You don't need to tell me every 2 seconds.
But the only time that actually impacted me, like the only time I went, oh shit, they're gonna forget her, was when they were at the dinner party.
Yes. That's the only tension I felt this whole fucking book.
That was like, leading up to that, I was like, she can't go or it'll reveal the curse. And then she's like, I'm going to go anyway. And I was like, oh shit, they're doing it.
But it's the only time it felt like there was tension. There was only time it felt like there was like, you know, there was a real, because, you know, it really felt, you know, that one scene, like every other time was just like, oh yeah, they're going to forget her. Oh yeah, they're going to forget her.
And the tension from that was because there was someone else there who would remember and would be like, wait a second, what's
going on?
Yeah.
You know, but I think one of them did forget and they just went, oh, you've had a few too many drinks, honey, you know, sort of
No,
thing.
she just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. She just came back to the table.
And it was like the polite confusion where the person themselves probably thought they'd had a few too many drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't find it really annoying at all, but then I did read the first, like, this much relatively slowly, like in small chunks. And it was only like the last part that I read in the last week and bit. But also, like, I don't know, I was just sort of really enjoying the language and the writing, and I didn't really mind the repetition at all because of the way that it sort of showed the ins and outs of the curse and her sort of exploring what she can get away with and how much, and like it sort of showed her learning how to work in the cracks of like the curse as well, which was really interesting. And you could tell I think they probably wouldn't have been able to get away with it if they put the whole thing in chronological, because then it would have taken 2/3 of the book to actually get to the love story part, and people would have been just like, what the fuck, where did this come from?
Yeah, but I feel like there's enough of it, like enough of the love stuff with the other characters. Like I feel like it would be more impactful for her to then meet Henry, to have all of that stuff where they meet, they fall in love, they forget, and go through all of that for like most of the book, and then meet Henry, and it's like, oh shit, he remembers her.
Yeah.
And then have that for the rest of the book. I feel like that would have been more.
Yeah, well, because let's face it, that would have been 2/3 of the book. 2/3 of the book of people forgetting her. So her having to live alone, caring for someone who forgets her every time they walk out the door, you know, and then all of a sudden she meets someone who stops her leaving the bookstore because she's stolen a book because he remembers her.
I feel like it would have been more emotional that way as well. Whereas having that constant forgetting littered all the way through, it kind of took away that moment for me.
I'd have to agree with that.
Where he remembered her and stuff. It was like, okay, but
I understand where she was going for with the back and forth. But to me, you know, and look, I'm not against having books written out of chronological order. Sometimes they're done really, really well. But I think that scene with Henry where she first meets him and he remembers her, if it had been 2/3 of the book in, I think I would have felt that it was very, you know, like it would have hit me harder.
I think he's tired.
Maybe I just disagree. I really liked the out of order. I felt like it was really cool having the juxtaposition between seeing her struggling with the first few times she's realizing that she's cursed and she's trying to work out how to survive, versus the parallels with 2014 when she's like slick and just like walking into a shop, stealing the clothes and walking out, and you're just like, well, she clearly works out how to do it, but you've got to find the in-betweens of how she sort of works out what she can and can't do. I really liked that. And also it was like the second meeting with Henry when she finally realized that he remembered, because the first one, the door was still slightly open and she just assumed that he'd caught her just before he forgot.
It's the second one where she goes in and he goes, oh, so what are you going to steal today, you know, sort of thing.
I thought it was really funny the way that they did that second meeting with the I remember you bit, because she literally tries to switch a stolen book, and I was just like, oh my God, that would be mortifying. And then like she realizes that she's found someone who remembers her, but she has majorly pissed them off. And she's just like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. I just must be dead inside, because to me it's sort of, as I said, I enjoyed it. I just didn't. There was sort of bits like I was just like, come on. A lot of it felt, because of the repetition. I think my problem was that I just felt like it was words for the sake of words sometimes, and I felt like a lot of it could have been like, I reckon you could have cut 1/3 of it out of there, and you still would have had a very impactful, good story. But sometimes I think the words were just used for the sake of having a pretty sentence. And that's
I would say there's definitely a lot of wordsmithing involved.
Yeah.
I think there were some moments where I was kind of like, okay, I want to get to the Henry bits quicker now, because it was sort of getting repetition.
The story starts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The real story starts when she meets Henry.
It took quite a while to get there, and it's like 100 and something pages in, and it's like 100 pages in that we finally meet Henry. So I feel like we could have gotten to that point a little bit quicker, which would have been interesting. But then at the same time, this is where I stumble on the, like, if it was in chronological order, it would have been better, because, like, it really kicked off once she met Henry. And if that had been at the 3/4 point in the book instead of at the point where it was, I don't know if a lot of people would have gotten there, because they would have been going like, is this just a fucking historical retelling or something? Because of how much was in there.
So my question is, okay, you know, do you need all that stuff before Henry?
Well, see, that's the point as well. Like, if you'd changed the order, you would have had to cut a lot of that stuff. And I don't know. I feel like
but see, I liked that stuff more than the stuff with Henry, as much as I liked Henry's stuff.
I
think in the...
I feel like you could have cut some of it, but also it gained a lot from being there, and it told a lot of the story, because you wanted to see, like, the different eras that she goes through. So I don't see how they could have put it in chronological order without sort of dividing the sort of readers half and half.
Well, one of the things I said earlier is, one of the things I would have loved to have seen was, Estelle says at one point, you've got, you know, the 7 freckles for the 7 loves that you will have, or the 7 lives you will leave. If it was in chronological order and they did
went through 7.
The 7 lives or the 7 loves, I would have been happy, because it would have been a miniature story in each section.
That would be really interesting.
To me at the moment, and look, as I said, I don't hate the book, but to me at the moment, the whole book feels like the story part is when she meets Henry and the plot of Henry's the end of everything, where everything else feels like a filler. Now, I know it's essential backstory, and I don't hate it, because you do have to know a lot of that stuff to really impact what goes on with Henry. But if she'd had her 7 lives and her 7 loves or whatever, I think, like, I would have been happy with that, because you could still have it in chronological order, and then obviously the 7th one being Henry, it sealed it all. You know, that to me would have...
Is the 7th one Henry, or is the 7th one Luke?
No, Luke would have been the 4th or 5th one, wouldn't he?
Or the 1st, maybe.
The 1st, yeah.
Yeah. I can only think of like 4 or 5 though. But I think there's more in the last 100 pages. Because there's Remy, there's Sam, there's Toby, there's Henry, and there's Luke, potentially, who's an asshole.
There's the artist.
The one in Florence?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was just like a one-night stand though, I think.
No, she mentions in that she'd spoken to him a few times.
Okay, so that's...
Yeah. Potentially. I mean, it's hard to tell, because they don't really...
Maybe?
Yeah, but it's not really a focus anyway. But, yeah, but it's just...
And they mention other people. Oh, I did really like the random mention of Colette. Where is it? I think it was a pink one. Yeah, here it is. Did you meet Hemingway, he asks. We met once or twice, she says with a smile, but Colette was cleverer. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
That would have been a really cool meeting to show. I would have liked that. But also, I feel like there's like, she's left enough gaps for the readers to sort of fill in with their imagination with stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying lay everything out, but I just think if you'd wanted to do it in chronological order, there would have been a way to do it to make it work. Obviously, it hasn't been written in chronological order, so we've got what we've got. We've got the story that we have. It's not a story. I would recommend to someone to read it. I just would not necessarily tell them they're going to love it. They might love it.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I would say the same as well. I would recommend it as a book, but I'm not mad that you guys didn't enjoy it as much as I did, because I know for a fact that it's the sort of book that will find the people who really love it, and then the others will just be like, okay.
There's a reason it's been on the best on the bestseller list for how many weeks now? because it is
6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's still on this week.
It is a good book. And hey, I've read some pretty shocking books in the last couple of years, and I know you have.
But I mean, to be fair, the bestsellers list doesn't mean that everyone that bought a copy liked it. It just means that they followed the hype. So
hey, look, it happens. That happens. You know, look, 50 Shades. How many that was the bestsellers list. Doesn't mean it's a good story.
There's a lot that's been on bestsellers lists that were not good.
Tell you what, the relationship between those two and 50 Shades of Grey is a lot worse than her and Luke in this.
Luke at least seems to learn and change. I mean, you know,
definitely.
You do get a one-sided opinion of them because you're only really getting Addie's side. But
you get a little bit of Henry's as well.
Yeah, but my impression of his is that he is changing. You know, he's adapting and learning.
I think because of the kind of character that he is, being not human, I can kind of not totally forgive some of the bad stuff he did, but I guess as like a I don't know the correct wording. Fan isn't the right kind of word for what I'm trying to say, but like I read a lot of mythology. So to have that idea of like he's a god, he has made deals. You've sold your soul to him. And when he comes to collect, he comes to fucking collect. If you're not ready to give it to him, too fucking bad. You made the deal. That's on you. So like that scene with, who is it? Was it Beethoven?
Beethoven.
It gets a little aggressive. I'm like,
and when he first
that's
talks to me,
fair.
it's such a waste.
To be honest, I didn't mind that scene. I know he got aggressive and it got crazy and wild and that. But I'm sitting there going, yeah, he's a dark god that you made a deal with, mate.
But then everything that he does with Addie then makes sense as well because he's trying to get her soul. That's the whole point of the deal. So the fact that like
he's pushing
but
her.
then once he realizes like, oh no, I kind of like having her around, he changes, he switches. It's not suddenly I'm going to try and torment her. It's I'm going to woo her. I'm going to take her out to the nice dinners. I'm going to buy her a house. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like
he still has his moments because essentially he is a wild thing of the forest. So when she does piss him off, he does overreact.
No, he burned the house down in New Orleans. I didn't actually read that scene, but I remember something earlier about her talking about him sparking a match.
No, she did it.
She did it.
Oh,
she burned it. Yeah.
I haven't read it yet.
They had an argument, and she doesn't know if it was her throwing the candles or him doing this, or the house got burnt down effectively at the end of the day. But it's you got to take his nature into things. You can't say, well, you know, he's just shit, you know, because he is this wild thing of the old world that has made deals with people, humans, and he has a right.
I think people are too quick to be like, this portrays an abusive relationship, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, yeah, but he's not human. Stop making
this is my point exactly when I said it's a much better relationship than the one in 50 Shades, because in 50 Shades, the main character is held up as like this romantic leading man that everyone should adore, and he's kind of an abusive dick.
Yeah. But see, the thing is always is when I said that this is got a certain allegory for bad relationships, is my thing is she made the deal to escape a marriage. What did she end up with?
Yeah.
A marriage. She's not free.
Yeah.
But I think I would have
I
would have enjoyed the book more if it was apparently when it was first kind of pitched or announced, it was that she makes the deal and she does fall in love with Luke. And I know I would have enjoyed that more.
That I would have enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed that more if it was the whole time him wooing her and her being, you know, whatever against him. I still would have liked that more. But again, that falls into the Beauty and the Beast thing. So, of course, I would have liked it.
Also, too, is and going on the Beauty and Beast thing is there's a point where he's telling her, you're not human. You haven't been human since you made the deal. And she's no longer part of humanity, which in a way is similar to the Beauty and the Beast thing, because Belle leaves the town to go with Beast. She makes a deal to go with him. And it's, you know, I quite like the fact that he is trying to tell her, well, you actually have more in common with me than these humans now.
Yeah.
But
I liked that moment actually when he like gave her a kind of an ultimatum thing, and she was like, yeah, fine, just take that guy. I don't give a shit. And then he was like, see, you wouldn't have done that if you were a normal fucking human.
No. See, what I would have liked it if she'd used in that ultimatum, if she'd, what was I thinking I was hoping she would say? Oh, I can't remember now because it was a while back. It was a week ago when I read it. But I was kind of hoping she would twist it a little bit and turn it on him or something and say, well, how about you? Why don't you just go? You know, or something like that. But obviously she wasn't, you know, smart enough to think that. But sorry.
There's a nice symmetry to it because earlier on she was the one who put the seed of the idea in his head that they were the same. And then it sort of flips and then he's trying to convince her that they're the same. But it's different because she's saying you're more human than you want to admit, and he's saying you're less human than you want to admit.
Well, he used whatever magic he has to make her live forever, be forgotten by everyone who meets her. I don't think she's human anymore.
She's not in the same. Yeah, she's different. I didn't get to read that far. So there was a couple of lines. There was a bit where I love the line where it says, "Freedom is a pair of trousers and a buttoned coat, a man's tunic and a tricorn hat. If only she had known, the darkness claimed he'd given her freedom, but really there is no such thing for a woman, not in a world where they are bound up inside their clothes and sealed inside their homes, a world where only men are given leave to roam." And then there's like, where is it? Later on she says, "To think Addie might have saved her soul and simply asked for these clothes." But there was a really interesting point. It's like page 392 where she asks, she says, "I thought you would have enjoyed war or something or been fond of war."
Yeah,
why would I be fond of war? And it is the first time she thinks he has asked an honest question, one not meant to goad, demand, or coerce. "Are you not a god of chaos?" His expression sours. "I am a god of promise," Adeline, "and wars make terrible patrons."
Yeah, because that's what he is. He makes deals, you know. He makes deals with people to give them effectively. He's giving people deals so they can make great art.
He's a patron of the arts.
Patron of the arts, yeah. And Addie to herself starts.
She says she's a muse and he's a patron. I think that's how they put it at one point.
Yeah, and it's sort of, and it's very interesting that you know, because it is all cycled around the artwork and that, but yeah, I must admit at one point that did annoy me because it was just like, what, you're going to claim that every good artist was this, you know, had a deal with him? You know, not everyone needed to have a deal with him, you know. But
I thought it was funny when they're at the opera and then you said, guess which ones are mine.
That was
and it's like some of them will be and some of them won't, and then you've got to try and work out which ones are which.
Yeah, but it's sort of, you know, that I don't know. I'm just trying to articulate it, and it's not coming. But it's there was a point though where I sort of thought I think it was not Beethoven, but it was at some point around there when it was like another one, and it was just like, again, come on, hurry up. Yeah, hurry up. We only needed to see
Beethoven, wasn't it? Shakespeare?
But there was
possibly, I can't remember now.
But there was the woman that he took in Florence, I think it was.
I liked her.
But that was like a gentle one, yeah. So
yeah,
like
I haven't read that bit yet. I think I skipped it.
Yeah, that's just before the house is burned down.
Yeah, I skipped through a lot of that.
Yeah. That one. I like that one because it shows that he's not an evil god. He's a dark god.
Yeah, which takes me back to my thing of like the only reason that he was a dick to Beethoven is because Beethoven struggled against him. If Beethoven had just welcomed it, it would have been fine. But that's why he was also a dick to Adeline, because she was, you know, fighting him, and he's trying to get what she's offered. Like,
but at the same time, before he sort of fell for her, he deliberately made her life really difficult so that he could try and get her soul quicker. And she said, if you'd only just given me what I wanted, I would have had my fill a lot quicker. But now I'm deliberately trying to spite you because you made it so hard. So there's like back and forth. And then he realized.
But even then, there was like decades where he wasn't bugging her. Like, it was so.
But she still had to go through being forgotten and the trouble of trying to live and fulfill all of the stuff that she wanted to do when she can't really go anywhere without someone, or like be given anything without someone forgetting or like accusing her.
Yeah, but I would argue that the character that she is, even if people could remember her, if she had the option to live forever, she would. Because of how fascinated she is by everything new, by the arts, by, you know, every movement. Otherwise, it would have just gotten to a point where she would have given up. But it's the fact that she didn't because of her love for, you know, the creation of new things. And
the real kicker is there is nothing saying at the end that those people in the bookstore are going to forget her, because she rewrote the deal with Luke. Nowhere in there was people are going to forget you.
But they're going to remember it because it wasn't written by her anyway. So
no, her as a person standing in the bookstore. There is no part of the deal. Part of the new deal with her and Luke is that she will stay with him. But there's nothing in the deal about being free, which was the part of being free was where he twisted it into people will forget you. That will make you the freest person of all. That's gone.
Yeah, so you never know what the new deal could be.
So you don't know what the new rules of the new deal are. So there is a potential chance that she is living an immortal life and going through the world with Luke, and they're going to be remembered wherever they go.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's kind of like he chooses when she's seen and remembered and that kind of thing, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I skimmed the end, honestly, because I was fucking over it. So,
I feel like it'll be sort of like, I'm guessing they'll probably just go on forever as the sort of arts patron / muse combo, where he is the patron and she is the muse for the different artworks whenever she wants to.
I think it just, what annoyed me the most with it is that she clearly admits multiple times that she has feelings for Luke, that she loves him and whatever. But then she still tries to deny it at the end, and it's like, why are you doing that to yourself? Like, you're causing the issue.
Right. Like, if she had come, like, even in New Orleans and that, if she'd come to realizing that she did actually care for him, she just wasn't prepared under their current deal to accept him. And then they go and re-agree to a new deal. Why is she still so intent on breaking him?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. Come on. Come in.
I don't know, but I don't know. From the last page, for me, it was sort of like, yeah, she can try and get out of this. There's like an ambiguous possibility that she could either try and like fight her way out of the new deal by making him hate her, or there's the potential that she will then end up enjoying it and liking him potentially.
She's already admitted she cares for him. So yeah, and this is also true. This is very so there are certain books out there where, you know, 400-year-old people fall in love with year-olds. She at least now has lived for 300 years. She's had experiences that are akin to him. He's still an ancient being, but they have more in common with each other than anyone else on the planet.
Yeah, if they just gotten together right off, it would have been way wrong.
They're having that time to live and grow and learn makes more sense to me that they would at least learn to live with each other, if not actually be able to care for each other. And I think just coming to a conclusion here, I think my problem is that she tries so hard to make Luke the bad guy. The Addie, not Schwab. Addie tries so hard to make Luke the bad guy when really at the end of the day, if it was just a couple of words here and there, you could really see it turn into a romance between them.
Yeah, potentially.
Well, I mean, they did have a relationship for like
it's like 50 years or something.
Yeah, for like a half a century.
Yeah.
Like it's
I guess
but it's really skipped over.
To me, it sort of comes across as like she's pissed about Henry, and because it's still so fresh, she's still like, I'm gonna fuck you up now because you did it to me, sort of thing. But I feel like in time she'd probably get over that.
But he relented and gave her what she wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Pissed about him making a deal when she knows he makes deals with others. And it's the one time he's changed the deal and let Henry go.
Yeah. But it still means that
but he also got Henry for her.
Yeah, well.
Like it's I don't know, I just think she's a dumbass. But,
I do think that she spent. I do think she grew up in the last 6 months of of Henry's life.
I'd say she definitely had the most, the most evolution in terms of maturity. Not necessarily character evolution, but in terms of maturity in the last year that she spent with Henry.
And that's the thing. Yeah. The reason I had so much trouble, I think, getting into Addie's character, which stopped me from getting and enjoying the book, was the fact that I spent most of the time thinking, come on, Addie, you did this to yourself. Accept it. Okay, she's learning the rules of her curse. Okay. It's not a curse, honey. It's your deal. She's learning the rules of her deal. So, but she doesn't have to be so goddamn bloody, oh, woe is me all the time. She did it to herself. She needs to grow up. She needs to, figure out what she can and can't do, but not keep blaming him for her making the deal. He rejected her to begin with, and she insisted on making this deal. It was her fault. She doesn't admit that until page 500.
Yeah. A point I made before is that in 300 years, she never figured out a way to make money to not have to steal. She could have learned how to sing. Yeah. She could have got an instrument and busked. She could have,
people would forget and then just not pay her.
No, how when they're standing right in front of her?
That people give you money and then they walk away.
And then the people come up and say, where's your license? And if you don't have it,
I don't think you need a license to busk in America. Do you?
You do over here. I would assume you probably do over there as well. Although maybe not for the last 300 years. But there's she works out ways to make money that walking out with a designer coat and then walking into a pawn shop.
But she's still stealing. That shop hand is going to get fired because a $500 coat got taken.
Yeah. And she doesn't,
she doesn't think about the consequences that her actions are causing for the other people. She shits on Luke for it, but then she never thinks about when she does it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he even calls her out on that at one point. Luke.
Yeah. When they're having dinner in the rich place in Paris, he does.
Yeah, you're not exactly a bloody maid yourself. And but her refusal to learn that, that was pretty early on. That was 50 years down the track of the deal.
Yeah. I think it was earlier than that.
And we've still got, well, even if it's 100, we've still got another 200 years for her to learn. And so
I'm pretty sure it was only after like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, he even tells her there are other ways for you to live. You don't have to do it this way. But she insists on continuing her life the way she does it.
Yeah,
Well,
and then when Henry calls her out on it, she loses her shit at him.
Yeah. At the time that he says there's other ways for you to do that, I'm pretty sure she assumes he means give me your soul, and she's like, "Fuck no."
Yeah,
but
like honestly, she's sleeping with everyone anyway. Why doesn't she just claim to be a hooker and take money? Like,
well, she does
work with what you got.
No, but that's what she does for the first like 50 years in Paris.
Yeah,
but
she could have continued doing that with people. Just like, you know, they'd be like, "Oh shit, I must have been so drunk last night." She's like, "Yeah, you owe me like $300, man." You know, like, why wouldn't you just? I guess it takes the romance away from the situation. But like, if you really need it, you need it. Like, as someone who's worked in retail, it bugs me that she was just stealing so much shit, because I know that that's coming down to the people working in the store. They're going to get fired. They lose their income.
Yeah. Or taken out of their paycheck.
Or taken out of their paycheck, yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think that's part of the problem I had with her stealing, was that I have worked in retail and I've seen the consequences of someone doing something like that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, but also too, though, there has got to be other ways. Like you could, I don't know, you know, there's got to be other ways to earn cash that aren't just stealing, because at the end of the day, stealing is the easy thing.
Yeah.
But
and I get that, like,
her character, she's gone for the easy route. She didn't want to be married. She went for the easy route. She fucked up her deal because she was going for the easy route. Just want to be free, and then she just continually tries to go for the easy way. You know, but you know, she does finally learn. She does finally learn after 300 odd years, but takes her a bloody long time to learn.
Yeah. It also annoyed me that, like, as much as there was kind of like a vague mention of her having other same-sex relationships, she only really had one girlfriend come up in the story.
Yeah, there was no. You didn't actually see them.
Yeah, and then I liked that I liked the way that I know her name is Victoria, but I keep calling her V. I like the way that she really laid out that I keep forgetting his name, that Henry was Pan.
Yeah.
I really liked the way that was specified. I was going to say something about that on Instagram, but then I didn't want to spoil it for you guys because I was like way ahead.
No, well,
but I really liked the way that was
Pan.
Hey?
By that time, like, I already knew. I'm trying to find, I think I marked the page.
Well, I'm pretty sure, because most of it, like, you're like, okay, yeah, he's bi. But then by that little line, I really, really liked that line. But because I think that's like the first Pan character that I've actually read, which is, you know, nice. So I really appreciated that. But I just feel like there should have been more showing of that. Like, it was just told that he'd had past relationships with guys, or that he'd hooked up with guys, or that he'd hooked up with girls, and that she had this one girl and then had hooked up with others in the past, you know. But I feel like I would have liked more. It just seemed very straight and very white to me. And I was just like, in this, like, she, in all the historical parts of it, completely ignored anything about people of color. And she could have touched on slavery. She could have touched on, you know, when she first moved to America, on how the indigenous are treated, on, you know, all of that stuff. And it just was complete blank on all of it. I think that's my biggest gripe with it, is that there was so much history that she could have brought up and she could have talked about, and she just seemed to ignore all of it and just went for the pretty stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely more that could have fitted in. I I guess for a lot of the early stuff, it's probably because it was like in the middle of like France and Venice that they're
but they still had, you know, unfortunately slave trade and stuff there. They still had immigrants, and they still had, you know, like they could have talked about Italian immigrants in France, how they were treated, or English immigrants, you know, just things like that, or, you know, anything. God, the French royal family used to keep, unfortunately, Black people as pets. Like, would you not? I know it's not something, you know, pretty and fun to talk about, but it's history. Yeah. And you can't ignore it.
Have a mention.
Even if it's just
something like that.
Like one line in passing or something. Yeah.
Even like with the zoo, when she talked about having the zoo, there would have been people there as well as part of that. It's, you know, disgusting history, but it's history. It's there. Why not talk about that?
Yes.
You know, there's just so many things missed that she could have talked about. And also, if she was going to go the LGBT route and have, you know, Addie have, I guess, be bisexual would be the simplest way to put it. She could have talked about how that happened in France in the 1700s, how it happened in England in the 1800s when she was there, or what was happening in France, because it's not like they didn't exist then. They had clubs, they had, you know, it was everywhere. And she could have brought that up as well, and she didn't. It was like, oh no, she was straight until she got to New York in 2014. You know, or gay people didn't exist until this point in time, and then Addie started hooking up with girls. Like, why not talk about that? I just felt like that was such a missed opportunity, and it would have made those past sections more interesting, more valuable. I just found them a little bit like, meh.
To me, they were solely there to make the modern day make sense.
Yeah.
When I actually wanted them to have stories of their own right.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a lot more of those little moments scattered through the past bits as well. I feel like it was mentioned in passing, but that's about it. And that was just with the sort of queer relationships mentioned in passing, because I'm pretty sure the reference to Colette was deliberate, because Colette was like famously bisexual, pansexual, whatever artist. So of course Addie hooking up with her would make total sense. So I think that was a deliberate slip in reference, but a couple more things like that would have been really cool. And like more references to the diversity, like, and racial tensions and stuff in the history as well would have been interesting, because there's an opportunity there to draw parallels, particularly as Addie is like a character who's being forgotten and mistreated all the time.
You'd think she'd have some sympathy.
Yeah. But then like again, you had to find her character really annoying and like inconsiderate, so maybe that is part of it.
Maybe, yeah. I just feel like it's
not inconsiderate, just selfish. She's only thinking about herself for a good majority of the book. She's only thinking about how is me and how do I fight this? When you know, if she'd grown up a little bit and taken responsibility for her actions, she could have done real good. Think about it. If you can walk in somewhere, like she tried. There's a mention that she tries to be a spy at one point. I'm not going there. I'm not going with that. But it does show that she could have done things to really help, because she could have used the fact that she's forgotten as her superpower.
Yeah,
you know, but because she's so woe is me and poor me, I'm you know, I've been abused because I've been, you know, I entered a deal and that I didn't actually fully understand the consequences of. So, you know, it's not my fault.
I think a big part of what annoyed me about it as well was that there were parts mentioned, or certain time periods mentioned, like World War II was mentioned, the French Revolution, that kind of thing. And I feel like Schwab kind of left you to figure the rest out and to put pieces together and to, you know, oh, you know this, that's fine. I don't need to go into that because you already know it. It's fine. Yeah. And I think that's where people are really I don't want to say that people are uneducated, but I feel like the people that are super really enjoying this book are kind of not thinking about those times as much as they should. Yeah, it's romanticizing that kind of thing. Like, I would have liked to hear what Addie thought of World War II, how she, what side was she on? Because we don't know.
When it doesn't she get locked up by the Germans at some point?
Yeah, that's when she was trying to be a spy. She got caught by the Germans. So, but she lived through one. She's seen a second one, or she's lived through two, and she doesn't have words to say about war. Now, Luke had words to say about war.
Yeah. She's just completely not even talking about it, doesn't say anything about it. There's no mention of, the horrors that she experienced or the terrible things that happened, or it's just like, yeah, I got caught and was put in jail for a night and then they forgot me and let me out. It's like, yeah, but what about the thousands, millions of people that died? Like, what? Like, it just seems to be, such a romanticized kind of retelling of history. And I think that really kind of got to me towards the end, where there was just like where she talked about like New Orleans and it got into like the house fire and everything. Then I was kind of like, hang on a second. Yeah, there's a lot of things that she's just glazed over. Like the houses in New Orleans are attached. So that fire that they started would have spread and burnt a bunch of other houses and stuff.
Wasn't there a big fire in New Orleans in history?
Yeah, probably. I think
there was the Chicago fire, but maybe there was one in New Orleans
as well. Yeah.
I think there was a lot of secret history elements dappled through. Like Beethoven's death was definitely like a secret history thing.
She definitely did her research, but I just feel that it's just, I don't know. And I know, but by restricting it to Addie's sort of point of view, you do lose a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's the choice you make when you restrict it to a certain point of view. But
that's what you get as well when you've got the character arc that the person is going on, is going from someone who is very selfish to an ultimate selfless act at the end. So all of her selfishness is building up to the point where she gives up the one thing she's been fighting against to save someone else from a deal.
But she hasn't. My problem is you don't see her opportunities. So there's a lot of there would have been over 300 years a lot of opportunity for her to confront her own selfishness and change. And and she would have rejected them all along the way. And you just don't see them. You don't see. So her arc of being a selfish child who ran away from her parents because she didn't want to do what they told her. I mean, okay, I understand at 23 she didn't want to get married. I totally understand that from a modern woman's point of view. But from a 300 years ago French provincial town, she went against her parents' wishes. She was very, very selfish what she did. And then
what do they describe her as? Headstrong and stubborn?
Yeah, but everyone's headstrong and stubborn in their own way. But it's just sort of, but you don't see other than that little selfish acts. And let's face it, surviving by stealing is selfish. She's decided not to try to better herself. She's decided just to survive.
Yeah.
And her selfish act is imprinting her image or the music or whatever into artists so that she is remembered through artwork. At the end of the day,
she has this core fear of being forgotten, and that sort of dictates her actions and turns her into the sort of person who will steal and do what she has to do to survive and to make an impact on the world, when she could have been, if she was a selfless person, she wouldn't have been stealing to survive, and she would have been using her powers, like you described, to improve the world.
Or at least help one or two people that could in turn do something important, And it's just, but what we might do, guys, is we'll call it in about 10 minutes because I'm getting tired. But We're still going. I mean, you know, there's still plenty of stuff. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Why don't we just do a final wrap up on final thoughts on the book?
I've got a line here from the very beginning. It's like the first chapter in the past, and I really liked it because it's the way that she uses the different like the way that the different characters describe Addie to show the different characters. So it's the last like few paragraphs of the end of the chapter is like, she's at odds with everything. She does not fit, an insult to her sex, a stubborn child in a woman's form, her head bowed and arms wrapped tight around her drawing pad as if it were a door. And when she does look up, her gaze always goes to the edge of town. A dreamer scorns her mother. A dreamer mourns her father. A dreamer warns Estelle. Still, it does not seem such a bad word until Adeline wakes up.
Mm.
And it's the scorns, mourns, warns is like the mother's perspective, and then the father's perspective, and then Estelle's perspective of like, this will actually cause a lot of trouble. Watch out. She's fucking right.
Which also too is you got to ask the question is, why did her parents let her get to 23 without being married in that day and age?
Yeah.
Well, they tried to set her up and everyone kept dying.
Yeah, that's right. She prayed to the river god or someone, and then the person she was
she fucking killed people.
Died. Yeah. And she was like, oh, I don't know if that was me, but I feel bad about feeling grateful for this.
But that was one guy. That wasn't all of them. But there was more than one. There was
the
more
other
than one.
His gaze drifted to Isabel, and he married her instead. And then the other one that she was finally going to marry was because his wife died. His other wife, like the one who'd already married, died.
Yeah, but in saying that though, in that time period, they should have been marrying her off at 15, not at 23.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess like they probably just didn't want to move further than the village, and all the men in the village are already gone.
But that's the thing though, is they would have. They would have, because they wouldn't want an adult daughter, an adult spinster daughter, who had no future. So it actually is interesting to me. And the father used to travel to another town to do his
and take her with him.
And so why couldn't he maybe find a family over there or something that had a marriageable son? That's just a question I have, and I think that's part of the problem, is because Schwab needed her to be a certain age for the story to be acceptable.
For it to work properly,
in modern day society. Because she couldn't have run away and done the deal at 14, because then she would have been a 14-year-old running around and sleeping with people and doing all this.
And that would have been really weird. Yeah.
That would have been very weird. Like, okay, 14 in body, but adult in mind. So I do understand why she delayed why she made the age more, but the question I have is, in history, how do you justify that at that time? That's just a thought. But look, my thought is that, look, okay, I know I've given it a bit of grief, but I did actually enjoy reading it to a point, and I think it is worth a read if you are interested. But just I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I did not cry. And I pretty much guess the ending at the start of the novel. So it's going to blow your socks off. But it's only for the language.
Yeah. I feel the same. Like I loved it until I had about 200 pages left. And then it started going downhill for me. And then the ending totally killed it. I would still recommend it to people. I have already recommended it to my friend. But yeah, I think I just have a few issues with it, just because I'm one of those people that know and like history. So knowing everything else that was going on at that time and to not have it shown and represented bugs me. But that's just me having that gripe.
No, I said the age, just that little inconsistency of the age really bugged me. And it should, because it shouldn't detract from the whole story. But at the end of the day, people didn't wait till they were 23 to be married 300 years ago.
No, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think I pretty much predicted the ending from the start, exactly to a T. I kind of had a few other alternate endings that I would have preferred and that I thought would happen. Not that I've read any of Schwab's other work, but I thought just knowing kind of what element they had to them, I thought she would go a different way, and then she didn't. And to say I was disappointed that the ending was, exactly what I predicted, being like 200 pages in, I was, a little bit miffed with that. And I think it would have been better had it been Addie either sacrificing herself, like giving up her life for Henry to survive, or Henry dying and her then giving up her life after he goes as like a, okay, well, I had my love, I'm done now, you can take my soul kind of thing. I thought those two endings, either of them would have been better, but, we got what we got. So I still like it. I'm still going to recommend it, but the ending was just nah.
I still have to read properly the last 100 pages. So that is like my one caveat. But I really liked it, like all the way through. Yes, there's stuff that could have been mentioned that wasn't, like with the history and with sort of queer relationships, that I wish was in there a bit more. But given the fact that it's this fucking big, I can understand how stuff got left out. Yeah. In fact, I think there's stuff that could have been left out and replaced with some of that. But given that it already took 10 years to write, maybe I don't think that was the focus that she was looking at with the story. I think the focus was on the idea of being forgotten and the fear of being forgotten, and on the evolution of how that impacts this character who wants to travel the entire world. So I really liked it. I still have to read the last 100 pages. I'm probably going to cry all the way through it, just because I do on that sort of stuff, particularly when it's like characters' last like goodbyes and stuff. That shit gets me. And there was a bit of there was a possibility that Henry was going to be like a Donna Noble, and I was like, fuck no. And then he actually remembered, and I was like, oh, okay. Would have cried a lot more if he had forgotten, I think. I think if he had forgotten, maybe that would have been an even better ending.
Honestly, I think it would have.
I think what would have been maybe like the one thing that I would have liked more than what is there is if they had forgotten that Beatrice's thesis idea was approved and she made that exhibit, and it wasn't called like Addie LaRue, it was like called like the ghost person or whatever. So it was like someone had noticed her efforts to be remembered, but no one had actually remembered.
Yeah, that's what I would have liked. I just found the book very...
The book was a little on the nose, particularly with the title. And stuff like that.
I think if it had just been the art show, the thesis, and then like maybe Henry had remembered and submitted his photos into it, I think that would have been good. That would have been perfect. But if you want a good version of this, watch the Age of Adeline movie with because honestly, that movie was so good. I'm not even joking.
They're making a movie of Addie LaRue already. It's already
there's already one out there.
No, like they're making, like V. Schwab has been writing the screenplay for the last few years at the same time as doing the book. So maybe they'll do a few things different in that. And
well, they'll have to, because you can't fit that much writing into a movie. It's honestly though, like when I did script writing, it was like one page equal to like 2 or 3 minutes screen time. So that's not happening.
Yeah, well, 120 pages is like a screenplay, and
that's very minimal writing.
Yeah.
The Age of Adeline, the movie, was like amazing. It was scarily similar to Addie LaRue as well. Still very different because people can remember her, so she actually does have like a kind of legacy thing.
I think that's the difference as well, is like the focus of this is on the invisibility of her life. Like, there's a reason it's called The Invisible Life and not just Addie, because the whole focus is around the fact that she is always forgotten, and her fear is to be forgotten and not leave a mark on the world and not have like had some sort of impact, even though her initial fear is to never actually like live. But like part of her fear is like that she'll spread that short-lived life from like cradle to grave and never have gone anywhere. Oh. And then did Emmy freeze on that face? That face is hilarious. But part of her fear is like that she'll have had this short life. Blink and you're there. Blink and
is that me or you guys?
That was you. You froze like. And
is that me or you guys? Oh my god,
it's you. You're like a stop motion at the moment. But yeah, I think the focus on this was very much on the Faustian bargains and forgetting. And like even V. Schwab has said that those were the inspiration for the thing. And as a result of that, that is the main focus of the book, and you miss out on some of the historical references or queer references that you might want that aren't in there as much.
Yeah, and that is the thing. You've got to pick a focus. And the focus of the book was that art, being remembered through art, and that fear of forgetfulness.
Right. And I think, there's something to be said for the commentary it has on the you can kill a memory, but you can't kill an idea once it's taken root.
I do like that.
That was really cool. And the way that he then, like, crafts, like, the magic and stuff and how that emphasizes that idea was really cool.
Well, anyway, guys.
There was one spot. Sorry to cut you off. There was one spot that bugged me because it came out of absolutely nowhere. Charlotte, I don't know if you would have picked this up if you skimmed the last 100 pages.
Which bit?
Feel free to mute me if you don't want.
No, go for it. It's all right. I'm going to read them.
The part where Luke jumps in time.
I didn't notice that one yet.
Remember that? He jumped 7 days.
Yes. He
he can do that?
He takes her for the night, and she thinks she's only been with him for 12 hours, but when he returns her, she's been gone for 7 days.
Yeah, so Henry's been, like, freaking out for 7 days, and then she's like, oh, crap, we only have, like, a week left together. And I was just like, hang on a second.
When did that happen?
How has he not done that before to fuck with her in 300 years?
He might have done it before, but she didn't notice because she didn't have anyone keeping tabs on her.
Maybe not.
Maybe, but also she was very surprised. Like,
she's never gone with him voluntarily before.
That wasn't voluntary. He forced that one.
Part of the deal was that he doesn't jump her using the shadows, and he does it. But also too, though, he she's always been able to tell what date it is too. There's a point where she always knows what the day and time is and stuff. So and that's the only time he's thrown and doesn't know what the date and time is because he jumps her.
Oh no, she knows because then she runs back to the thing to apologize and stuff.
No, he tells her. He says, "Oh well, you've been gone for 7 days" or something like that.
Oh, I can't remember. But that annoyed me so much. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
To me, that just came across as very lazy to like jump ahead and wrap it up because she just didn't know how to fill that last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, you could have waited time jump without like filling it in either, like because she does
exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. She could have just time jumped it and then did a little summary, but him having that time jumping thing was just totally random out of the blue. I didn't understand it, and it really annoyed me.
So I haven't read it properly yet. Like I skimmed those chapters, but I skimmed read different bits of them.
Yeah.
But I would interpret that just from what you've said of like that would be a way of him showing like his power over the amount of time that she's allowed with Henry after they've renegotiated the deal. Because that's the time when, like,
because that's before they renegotiate.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that if Luke hadn't changed so much in the last few hundred years, because he changed from wanting to control her. He still wants to control her in a way, but he doesn't. He wants her with him now. You know, and jumping. That's just spite.
Was that the bit where she missed their anniversary, or like she fucked up the anniversary, and then she says she'll go the next night? And is it the next night that she gets back?
It's the next night.
And then it's like 7 days later.
Yeah.
So it's before she makes the deal with him to fix all that stuff.
That, I'm going to have to read it, but to me that makes sense kind of, because she says like, I'll go and we'll have a proper anniversary if we can make up for some stuff before she goes.
Yeah. I think it just also bugged me because it's like she complained when they were together for like the 50 years or something. Maybe both of them did, that they could only be together at night. So they had such limited time together. And I'm like, well, why didn't he just fucking do that and just jump to the night like every time?
Well,
but it just seemed like it came out of nowhere that he could do this. I don't know. It was very jarring. It was jarring. Yeah. But anyway, we'll wrap it up here, guys. Next month we are doing The Hogfather.
Oh, I've got it. It's in my room. I'll be right back.
So it is a Christmas story. It is a Christmas story. So yeah, it's a bit smaller.
Just a bit.
It's also Terry Pratchett, so it's got to be good.
Oh, I like both the covers.
I love this trilogy, so it's got like 3 in here.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty plain inside. There's no. I'm just looking at it.
What is it? Like a retelling of the Santa Claus legend or something?
It's Terry Pratchett's
version of Santa Claus.
But for the book world. So yeah, so of course it's going to be full of humour. But yeah, that you guys want to? You guys got anything you want to plug?
I'll hopefully have a video out this weekend. Keep putting off. Like I've been editing it, and then I just ran out of time or energy on different nights that I was planning to do it, or like lockdown ended and I had other plans that suddenly popped up. So I'm like a week or 2 behind when I was planning to post it, but it's fine. I'm pretty sure it's been on like
I am attempting to do a book version of Where is BaaBaa. We'll see how that goes. I don't know how it will work because it's because Kindles are still black and white, so I don't know how it will work. So, but we'll see.
You might just have to play with the contrast of the pages before you make it black and white.
Yeah. Well, it's color. It's color, but Kindles show it as black and white. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So when it goes into black and white, you might want to play with the color, like the contrast first, so it comes up better in black and white.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to fiddle it. I don't even know if I'm going to do it. I'm seeing what I can do. Emmy, you got anything you want to plug?
I have a channel. It exists. I usually do live streams every Thursday night and Friday morning West Australian time. They should be back next week once I get my StreamYard hours back. Okay.
Well, we'll call it a night there, guys. Thanks for coming and see you all soon.